All right, just wanted to give a few thoughts on some of the things that have come up over the last couple of days. The last video, I tried to load it up on BitChute for the BitChute watchers, and nothing. It wouldn't take my video, so it went on to YouTube. So if you want to, I know how a lot of you feel about YouTube. I understand. I understand, but there's some videos I can only get them on YouTube, and there's other videos I can only get them on BitChute because YouTube will punish me for saying certain things. I mean, I understand the fascist nature, but look, you do what you have to do, right? So let's move on. Hopefully this one will get on BitChute and we'll be able to move on. Folks, do you remember when Al-Qaeda was a CIA operation? And what happened? We ended up getting into a big war to go after Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And there was the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, supposedly, that, I don't know, maybe the aliens came and got them and sent them off to the planet Xenor, but we never found them. But we found an excuse to go in and have another war. They couldn't get us to go, they couldn't get China and Taiwan stirred up. They got Ukraine stirred up, and that became a cash cow for them. But they couldn't get us to commit troops. And so they could create a big war and make a lot of money. Because remember, the New World Order operatives, they fund both sides, and they sit there and they get fat on the money as people are dying. Remember all that? They funded both sides of World War II. They have funded both sides of every war over the last 100 years, and they make a lot of money on war. It's big business. And that's why, anytime you understand why something's happening, just follow the money trail. Why are the Rhino Republicans, the establishment Republicans, why are they just getting so riled up over the Speaker of the House? Why? We just hit their cash cow. Because McCarthy was a big fundraiser. The Republican Party made a lot of money off of McCarthy, so they screamed like a stuck pig over the money. It's always about the money. Well, what's going on with Hamas attacking Israel? Stinks of a CIA operation to me. It does. It stinks to high heaven of a CIA operation to me. It's their modus operandi. They've been conducting business that way for a long time. And it stinks, in my mind, of above the CIA being a New World Order operation. They want to get us into a war. They couldn't get us to go into Ukraine, but they sure got us to send a lot of money to Ukraine. And there was some people that got really rich off of that money that was sent to Ukraine to support the most corrupt country in Europe. And why did Putin really go into Ukraine? Does anybody know the real reason he went into Ukraine? No. You know why? Because we're watching the network news. We're watching the people on YouTube and other places that have no clue as to why. It's because NATO was beginning to encroach. And Putin, and this is a fact, this is what's really happening. Putin felt like Russia was coming under threat from NATO. That's reason number one. Reason number two is because he was asked to go in there by the Eastern Ukrainians who were who were constantly being sniped and murdered, and their apartment buildings being hit with rockets. From Russia? No, from Western Ukraine. The Western Ukrainians, or the government of Ukraine, was using the Western Ukrainians, their army, the Ukrainian army, to attack East Ukraine, because East Ukraine was pro-Russia. There were a lot of native Russians in East Ukraine. That territory has been fought over for a very, very long time between Russia and that area in Ukraine, between Russia and whoever occupied it. If you look at the history of it, it's been going. It's an old conflict, and this is the Russians versus the Nazis. That's what Ukraine is right now. This war in Ukraine. So what are we doing? We're sending money to support the Nazis. You don't get it? You don't know that Ukraine was settled heavily by the fascists after World War II? And this is Russia versus the fascists? That's the reason that the war started. NATO, the fascist Ukraine, attacking Eastern Ukrainians who were Russians, who were, native Russians. That's why it got started. This was the New World Order trying to draw us into a fight. They really, really want a war, really bad. And they're really, really working hard to get us into one. And now it's Hamas and Israel. Oh, we've got to send U.S. troops now to help out Israel because, they're our ally. And what? We end up in another 10-year war? Fighting another terrorist enemy? But that the CIA raised up for that purpose? Do you not understand what happened in Afghanistan? We know Al-Qaeda was a CIA operation. So here we go again, folks. Round and round and round we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. So that's just where I am on that. But we have to support Israel biblically because Israel is God's chosen people, and if we don't support them, we won't receive God's blessings. Okay. That's getting into theology. And what's over there right now, that nation that's over there that call themselves Israel, folks, the vast majority of the people in that nation are not descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're not in that line. They are not the traditional, or we'll put it this way, they are not bloodline Jews from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's not who they are. Many of them are Caucasian. They're Ashkenazi Jews who came out of the Caucasus Mountains. They were of a different descendancy from, other than Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They took on the religion of Judaism. So religiously they are Jews, but ethically they are not. I know that angers people and that upsets them. And the Israel that's over there right now, that was formed by the Balfour Declaration in 1948, is not the Israel that is being spoken of in Scripture. And if you read the Apostle Paul in Romans, and you read it without a dispensational bias, you find out that the church, Gentile and Jew, is Israel today. Remember, Gentiles are grafted in to Israel. It's spiritual Israel now, not physical Israel. The Israel today that you don't want to attack, otherwise God will deal with you, is the Christian church. That's the Israel you don't want to mess with. Bless the church and God will bless the nation. Has nothing to do with that nation over there. All right. That I just really angered a lot of people because people, they can't deal with that. The last thing I want to give you is, look, you can't trust most of what you see on TV, videos, things like that. Let me give you something about television, which I believe in many cases we can apply to videos. You know, you've basically got television on the computer now. You can get television on your phone. You can get it on your iPad. Let me give you just a little tidbit about that. And this has to do with mind control and psychological warfare. And this is out of the Tavistock Institute. And this is what it says. The slyest form of control is making people think they are free while having someone manipulate their every move. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell, seeing the bars. The other, a far more subtle form of control and dictatorship, is when you can't see the bars and you think you're free. The biggest hypnotist in the world is an oblong box in the corner of the room that tells people what to believe. Television, with its reach into everyone's home, creates the basis for the mass brainwashing of citizens. As well as we will see in this chapter, you may not realize it yet, but your mind is being shaped and molded every time you turn on the one-eyed babysitter, and I call it the one-eyed monster. When you watch TV, the right hemisphere is twice as active as the left. He's talking about the brain, the right brain and the left brain, which in itself is a can over there. It gets colder and boop, it pops. Anyway, that interrupted me. Okay, let's try it again. I'll go back. Television, with its reach into everyone's home, creates the basis for the mass brainwashing of citizens. As we will see in this chapter, you may not realize it yet, but your mind is being shaped and molded every time you turn on, or you turn the one-eyed babysitter on. When you watch TV, the right hemisphere is twice as active as the left, which in itself is a neurological anomaly. Now this is where it really gets, this is where the light bulb should go off in your head. Quote, the crossover from left to right releases a surge of the body's natural opiates, endorphins, which include beta endorphins and enkephalins, morphine, codeine, heroin, so forth. In other words, your television works as a high-tech drug delivery system, and we will feel its effects. Another effect of watching television is that the higher brain, the higher brain regions, such as the midbrain and the neocortex, are shut down. That's your highest level of reasoning in your brain. And most activity shifts to the limbic system, your lower brain region. The lower or reptile brain simply stands poised to react to the environment using deeply embedded fight or flight response programs. I don't want to get too far off into this, but some folks in the younger generation seem to have lost fight or flight. It's almost like they're zombie eyes, and they don't react to threats very well. They don't run, or they don't go into flight mode or fight mode. They just kind of stand there like they're going to be able to reason with the person that's trying to kill them. You know, it's weird. Anyway. So, moreover, these lower brain regions cannot distinguish reality from fabricated images, especially when you're younger. A child cannot distinguish reality from fantasy on the screen. And so that's a job performed by the neocortex of the brain to distinguish reality. So they react to television content as though it were real, releasing appropriate hormones and so on. Studies have proven that in the long run, too much activity in the lower brain leads to atrophy in the higher brain regions. Now, you may not have known this, but I bet you, the people who brainwash you on a daily basis surely did. Don't worry, we'll come back to this later, he says. But do you get where I'm going here? Now let me read this little bit here. A couple more paragraphs. I'll have more out of here. I'm going to be talking about this probably for 6 months to a year. For the brainwashers in charge of this societal transformation, they have pulled off the ultimate trick. They were able to persuade people that what they can see with their eyes is what's there to see. Subsequently, people will laugh in your face when you try to explain to them the bigger picture and the unseen reality behind the curtain. In a 1981 interview, Hal Becker from a think tank called Futures Group in Connecticut said, "I know the secret of making the average American believe anything I want him to. Just let me control television. You put something on the television and it becomes reality. If the world outside the TV set contradicts the images, people start trying to change the world to make it like the TV set images." As they start bringing film roll out of Israel, the West Bank, Hamas, the Israeli army, all that, or pictures of people laying on the ground dead, you have to ask yourself, is this real or is this propaganda? Is this really happening, or is this something that they got, some film footage they got from 10 years ago? Or film footage, or something, a picture they got from the 1967 war. And they just threw it on there and said, "Oh, see what's happening now?" How many times have they used that trickery to influence us and to try to manipulate us to get into a war or do something that we really don't need to be doing because it doesn't benefit us. It only benefits the fat cats who are making a ton of money off of it. Follow the money, folks. Follow the money. Now, there's a rumor, I haven't been able to verify it, but I'll put it out there, that the digital currency, the central bank digital currency, has fallen through, that they're not going to be able to do it. They're getting a lot of resistance from we the people. They want to raise, not raise, how can I say this? They want to change the threshold of voting in the new speaker. They want to temporarily, yeah, right. Nothing in government is temporary. the threshold to vote in a new speaker. They want to make it easier or whatever. They want to make it harder to vote him out. This is the same trickery that's been done for ages. Before Pelosi, it was a one vote and you could get the speaker out, or the one Congress member could bring up a vote. They could challenge the speaker and they'd take a vote and the speaker would be out. That was pre-Pelosi. Pelosi came in and raised the bar. Of course, she was speaker. Why would she want that for herself? You know, she wanted to stay in power. It's all corruption. So Gates just brought it back down to where it was pre-Pelosi. Everybody agreed to it, and now they're all crying foul when he used it to get McCarthy out. I'm glad McCarthy's gone. Looks like Jim Jordan might be the next speaker. Trump endorsed him. So we'll see how the vote goes. I don't know. Scalise, his health is not good, so he's probably not going to be in there. It very well could come down to Jim Jordan. Now, I don't agree with everything that Jim Jordan how he wants to conduct business as a Speaker of the House, but I agree with him a whole lot more than I did with McCarthy. I think he'll be a better Speaker of the House than McCarthy was, as long as the establishment doesn't get to him and ruin him. I'm going to be running for city council here in this small city of 5,000 people that I live in, which is growing. I fully suspect it could double in population in the next 5 years. But I'm not going to have corporate sponsors. You know what I'm going to do? Put my name on the ballot. I'm going to spend my own money to put up a few signs around town. And I'm going to go out. I'll just talk with people out in town as I'm out doing things. If I'm in the grocery store, I'll talk to folks. If I'm at the mom and pop coffee house, I'll talk to folks. And that's how I'll do it. You know, nobody knows who I am anyway, as far as corporate sponsors go, and I don't want them to know. But as soon as I if I get elected and get in office, I know they're going to be showing up my door. And I don't have a size 10 boot, but I got a size 8.5 boot that is perfectly sufficient to kick them right back out that door. I don't want them, because I know what they're about. I don't want anything to do with them. So, that's where we are. Anyway, just thought I'd talk about that for a moment. I got to shut it down. God bless everybody. I'll see you next time on the C-Files.